Those silent stone ruins you walk through are not what they seem. Beneath your feet, a lost world of sophisticated machinery has been operating for millennia, hidden in plain sight. This journey will reveal the ancient machines integrated into temples across the globe, from the subterranean water channels of Angkor Wat to the acoustic chambers of Malta. By the end, your entire perception of ancient history and human ingenuity will be fundamentally reshaped. How did these structures function as both spiritual centers and technological powerhouses? And why has their true purpose remained a secret for so long? What does it truly mean to walk in the footsteps of the ancients? These ancient machines defy our modern expectations of clanking gears and spinning wheels. They are sophisticated systems built directly into the stone, designed to channel the power of the earth itself. A temple machine might be a network of underground channels directing spring water to create a perpetual sound of flowing purity throughout a complex. It could be a precisely angled shaft capturing a single beam of sunlight on a specific day of the year, illuminating a sacred statue in a dramatic display. Or it might be a chamber shaped to resonate at a certain frequency, transforming a chant into an overwhelming physical sensation for those inside. This was technology in its purest form, not as a separate tool, but as an intrinsic part of the sacred environment. The very stones were engineered to interact with water, light, and sound in predictable, repeatable ways. This reveals a purpose that transcends simple shelter or decoration. The architects were not just builders, they were programmers of experience, using their deep understanding of natural law to craft moments of profound connection. To see these structures as inert rock is to miss their entire purpose. They were alive with function, designed to perform, to influence, and to transform all who entered. Water was the lifeblood of these sacred spaces, and its mastery reveals the first great hidden machine. Far from simple wells or decorative pools, these were sophisticated hydraulic networks that transformed entire temple complexes into self-sustaining ecosystems. The engineers of Antiquity designed channels and cisterns with such precision that they could control the very flow of this vital element, directing it for purposes we are only now beginning to fully appreciate. At the sprawling temple of Karnak in Egypt, for instance, a vast network of stone channels ensured that sacred lakes remained at a constant level and that water was available for both daily use and elaborate ceremonies. But this was about more than just ritual. The movement of water through these stone arteries provided a natural cooling system for the complex, a practical necessity in the desert heat that also enhanced the comfort and focus of those within. This was technology seamlessly woven into the fabric of spiritual life. The ingenuity stretches even further back to the Indus Valley civilization and the ancient city of Mohenjo-Daro. Here, archaeologists uncovered a city-wide water management system that rivaled those of much later periods. They sourced water from distant locations, channeling it through meticulously laid brick conduits. Perhaps most remarkably, they constructed large central wells with stairway access and designed sophisticated drainage to carry used water away from living areas. This reveals a profound, widespread understanding of public health and sanitation engineered directly into their urban and sacred centers. The true brilliance of these systems often lay hidden beneath the surface in their purification methods. Water was not merely moved, it was refined. Before reaching the heart of a temple, it might be filtered through layered beds of sand, gravel, and even charcoal, a natural method to remove sediment and impurities. This ensured the water used in rituals was not only symbolically pure but physically clean. The constant, gravity-fed circulation meant the water was always fresh, never stagnant, creating a perpetual cycle of renewal. This hidden hydraulic machine did more than just support daily life. It powered the very essence of the temple's existence, proving that the spiritual and the practical were never separate, but two currents flowing from the same source. While water flowed through hidden channels, another invisible force was being harnessed within the very walls of these sacred spaces. The air itself could be engineered, transforming sound into an overwhelming physical experience. In the subterranean oracle chamber of Malta's Hal Saflieni Hypogeum, a deep voice spoken in one specific niche is not merely heard, it is felt. The sound resonates, vibrating through the stone floor and into the bones of anyone standing in the chamber. This is not a quirky architectural accident. It is the result of precise design, a hidden machine carved from solid limestone. The builders of this underground complex, over 5,000 years ago, understood how to shape a room to trap and amplify specific frequencies, tuning the rock like the body of a massive cello. A chant or a spoken word could be made to seem as if it emanated from the walls themselves, a disembodied voice of immense power. This technology of awe was widespread. In certain Mayan pyramids, like the Temple of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza, a hand clap at the base of the monumental staircase produces a perfect chirping echo, mimicking the call of the sacred Quetzal bird. The steps were engineered as a diffraction grating, breaking the sound wave and reflecting it back in a cascade. For a culture that saw the pyramid as a portal to the gods, this auditory phenomenon was a clear demonstration of divine communication. The purpose was profound. By amplifying a priest's voice or creating unearthly echoes, these acoustic chambers could induce states of heightened awareness or deep trance. The architecture was a tool for shifting consciousness, using the physics of vibration to blur the line between the internal self and the external world. To stand in such a space is to witness a lost science, one that understood that the most powerful machines do not always move, but sometimes they simply listen and then they speak. Above the engineered sounds and flowing water, a third mechanism was silently at work, one that turned the entire sky into a moving part. The grand passageways of Newgrange in Ireland and the precise orientation of the Great Pyramid of Giza are not just architectural marvels, they are colossal calendars and observatories built from stone and sunlight. These structures functioned as permanent, stone-based computers, their doorways, shafts, and corridors meticulously aligned with the solstices, the equinoxes, and the rising of specific stars. At Newgrange, a tomb older than the pyramids themselves, a narrow roof box was constructed above the entrance. For just a few days around the winter solstice, as the sun reaches its lowest point in the sky, a single beam of light penetrates this opening. It travels down a long, dark passageway, illuminating the inner chamber for a dramatic 17 minutes before the darkness returns. This was not a random event. It was a precise, predictable, and repeatable astronomical phenomenon engineered into the very fabric of the structure. It marked the death and rebirth of the year, a moment of profound significance for the community that built it. Similarly, the Great Pyramid of Giza is aligned to the cardinal points with a degree of accuracy that still astounds surveyors. Its sides face almost perfectly true north, south, east, and west. This alignment required an incredible understanding of the heavens, suggesting the builders used the circumpolar stars to find true north with painstaking precision. The pyramid was not just a tomb, it was a geodetic marker, a permanent fixture on the landscape that was in constant, silent dialogue with the cosmos. This celestial technology served a vital, practical purpose. By tracking the sun's journey, the priests and astronomers who operated these stone machines could predict the changing seasons with incredible accuracy. They knew precisely when to plant and when to harvest, securing the food supply for their entire civilization. They could schedule religious festivals to coincide with these powerful celestial events, reinforcing the connection between the divine order in the heavens and the social order on the ground. The temple itself was the mechanism, a device that required no power source other than the sun and stars, built to last for millennia and forever link the earthly realm with the cosmic dance above. The silent alignment of celestial stones finds its earthly counterpart in a far more visceral form of ancient engineering. Beneath the stillness of these massive complexes lay a hidden kinetic technology, a system of levers and counterweights that could move the seemingly immovable. How did builders at sites like Baalbek in Lebanon or Ollantaytambo in Peru position stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons with a precision that still baffles modern engineers? The answer may be carved into the very landscape surrounding these temples. We see ramps that are not mere earthen piles but precisely angled stone causeways. We find strange recesses and pivot points cut into bedrock, features that make little sense for a finished structure but are perfectly positioned to anchor massive wooden cranes or lever systems. At Baalbek, the famous trilithon consists of 3 stones, each estimated to weigh over 800 tons. The quarry where they were cut sits nearly a mile away, and the path to the temple involves a significant incline. The conventional explanation of thousands of workers dragging them on rollers seems almost fantastical when faced with such scale. Instead, some researchers propose a more elegant solution, a system of counterweights. Imagine a massive wooden arm pivoting on a stone socket that still exists today. On one end, a cradle holds the gigantic block. On the other, a container is slowly filled with water or smaller stones, acting as the counterweight. As the container grows heavier, it methodically lifts the monolith, allowing it to be pivoted and precisely positioned with a level of control that brute force could never achieve. This was not temporary construction equipment that was discarded. These pivot points and mounting sockets are permanent features of the sacred architecture, suggesting the machinery itself was part of the temple's long-term function. Perhaps these mechanisms were used to open immense stone doors that appeared seamless when closed, creating a dramatic reveal for initiates. They might have allowed for the adjustment of interior walls or massive altars, transforming a temple's layout for different rituals. In some cases, they could have even created moving platforms, elevating a high priest or a sacred object in a breathtaking display of divine power, made manifest through engineering. This transforms our view of these sites from inert piles of rock into dynamic, almost living structures. Parts of the temple could be manipulated, its form and function changed by a hidden, understood technology. The stones were not just placed, they were engineered to be moved, a concept that challenges our most basic assumptions about ancient capability and the true, kinetic nature of the sacred machines hidden in plain sight. Beyond the movement of stone and the alignment with the stars, a more subtle energy pulsed within the earth, and the ancients knew precisely where to find it. The fifth and perhaps most mysterious mechanism involves the direct harnessing of the planet's own vitality. Certain temples were not placed on random high ground. They were strategically positioned over geological fault lines, natural vents, and mineral-rich hot springs. These locations were chosen because the Earth itself was active there, offering a power source that could be channeled directly into the spiritual function of the sanctuary. The most famous example is the ancient oracle at Delphi in Greece. The temple was built directly over a fissure in the rock from which gaseous vapors, now believed to be ethylene, would rise from the ground. The priestess, the Pythia, would sit atop a tripod over this opening, inhaling these faint, sweet-smelling gases. In this altered state, she would utter her often cryptic prophecies, which priests would then interpret for those who sought guidance. For centuries, this was dismissed as myth, but modern geological surveys have confirmed the presence of two fault lines intersecting directly beneath the temple, capable of releasing just such hydrocarbon gases. This was not magic in the supernatural sense, but a sophisticated application of what we would now call geomancy, the art of reading and utilizing the energies of the earth. The builders of Delphi understood the connection between geological activity and altered states of human consciousness. They did not build a temple and hope it was powerful. They found a powerful place and built the temple as a conduit to focus and formalize that energy. The entire structure was a machine designed to interface with these subterranean forces, transforming the very breath of the planet into a source of divine inspiration. This principle of telluric energy harnessing appears across the ancient world. In many cultures, hot springs were considered sacred, places of healing and communication with the underworld. By constructing their most important temples at these sites, our ancestors were effectively plugging their spiritual technology into the Earth's core. The temple acted as a transformer, taking raw geothermal power and converting it into a profound experience for the participant. It was a perfect fusion of the spiritual and the scientific, a deep understanding that the line between the sacred and the physical was merely an illusion, and that the greatest machine of all was the living world beneath our feet. The true marvel of these structures lies not just in their placement, but in their very substance. The breathtakingly precise stonework found at sites like Sacsayhuaman in Peru or Puma Punku in Bolivia is itself a form of hidden machinery. These are not simple walls of stacked blocks. They are immense three-dimensional puzzles composed of irregularly shaped stones that interlock with a jaw-dropping perfection. The joints between them are so tight that in many places you cannot slide a single piece of paper into the seam. This was not merely an artistic choice or a demonstration of patience. It was a brilliant static machine engineered for one primary purpose: to withstand the immense and relentless forces of nature. In regions plagued by frequent and powerful earthquakes, these walls were designed to dance. When the ground shakes, a conventional wall made of uniform rectangular blocks will simply crack and collapse as the energy travels in a straight line through the mortar. But a wall built like the one at Sacsayhuaman, with its complex, zigzagging pattern of interlocking stones, behaves entirely differently. The seismic energy is diffused and redistributed across the entire structure. Each block, locked firmly in place by its uniquely shaped neighbors, vibrates and settles without breaking the whole. The wall moves as a single, resilient unit, absorbing the shock and then settling back into place, often with barely a stone out of place. This is engineering so advanced that it rivals modern seismic dampening systems, yet it was achieved with nothing but stone and an almost supernatural understanding of geometry and physics. The cutting technology required to achieve such perfection remains one of history's most profound mysteries. How did these ancient builders carve andesite and granite, some of the hardest stones on Earth, with such flawless precision? The surfaces are not just flat, they are often subtly concave or convex, creating a perfect, seamless bond with the adjacent stone. This suggests a knowledge of tools or techniques that have been completely lost to time. It points to a process far beyond simple chisels and hammers, perhaps involving the use of specialized abrasive compounds or even sonic technologies we can only speculate about today. To see this stonework as mere craftsmanship is to miss the point entirely. This was functional engineering on a grand scale, a self-locking structural system built to endure for millennia. Each wall was a permanent, unpowered machine, its sole function to distribute force and maintain its integrity against all odds. It stands as a silent testament to a civilization that understood the very language of the earth and built their sacred places to speak back to it in times of turmoil. Even the very air within these sacred spaces was a resource to be engineered. Deep inside the Great Pyramid or far below the surface in a carved rock temple, a hidden danger lurked, the slow buildup of stale air and toxic gases. Without a constant supply of fresh oxygen, these inner chambers would have become death traps, completely unusable. Ancient architects faced this invisible challenge with a brilliant solution: passive ventilation systems that turn the structures themselves into lungs. They mastered the simple physics of convection, the natural tendency of warm air to rise. By designing long, narrow shafts that connected deep interior rooms to the outside world, they created a continuous draft. The warmer, stale air inside would rise and escape through these upper vents, while cooler, denser fresh air was drawn in from lower openings. This was not a random feature, it was a precise mechanism. Shafts were often angled to capture prevailing winds, using the pressure differential to force a breeze through the deepest passages. The entire structure functioned as a sophisticated air pump, operating silently and without any need for fuel or moving parts. This hidden machinery of breathability served a dual purpose. On a practical level, it ensured that workers, priests, and initiates could spend extended periods in these enclosed environments without risk. But its function went far beyond mere survival. This constant, gentle airflow was a primitive but highly effective form of climate control. It prevented the buildup of humidity that would otherwise have damaged priceless wall paintings and caused organic artifacts to decay. The dry, circulating air preserved delicate colors and materials for millennia, protecting the sacred art and messages left by their creators. To achieve this, the builders had to understand the building not as a collection of rooms, but as a single, integrated system for managing the environment. Every shaft, every chamber's height, and every exterior opening was a calculated part of the whole. This was air conditioning and preservation technology engineered directly into the stone, a testament to an ingenuity that considered every element, from the massive foundation to the very breath one took inside. The eighth mechanism transforms darkness into revelation. Within the deepest chambers of these sacred spaces, a silent drama of light and shadow unfolded with celestial precision. This was not the random play of sunshine through a doorway, but a meticulously engineered performance where the temple itself became a colossal projector and a cosmic clock. The architects designed specific apertures, narrow light shafts, and polished reflective surfaces to capture a single beam of sunlight, channeling it through the darkness to land on a precise spot for only a few moments each year. This was a machine of pure light, powered by the sun and programmed in stone. The most breathtaking example is found at Abu Simbel in Egypt. Here, the entire temple was oriented so that twice a year, around the dates of the pharaoh's birthday and coronation day, the rising sun would fire a beam of light through the entrance. This ray would travel over 200 feet through the mountain into the innermost sanctuary and illuminate the statues of three gods seated at the back. The fourth statue, the god of the underworld, remained forever in shadow. This was not a happy coincidence. It was a calculated demonstration of power, a way to physically manifest the pharaoh's divine connection to the solar cycle. For the witnesses, it was undeniable proof that their ruler was in direct communication with the cosmos. This technology of illumination served a profound theological purpose. It reinforced the central narratives of their faith, making abstract beliefs tangible and awe-inspiring. A shaft of light striking an altar on the winter solstice could symbolize the rebirth of the sun god. A shadow cast in a specific shape might tell a story from a sacred text. These events turned the temple from a static building into an active participant in the ritual, a machine that confirmed the order of the universe on a schedule written in the stars. The effect was a powerful, multi-sensory experience that combined the visual drama of sudden illumination with the deep emotional resonance of a shared, timed event. It demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of astronomy, geometry, and human psychology, all converging to create a moment of pure magic. This was the ultimate hidden machine, one with no moving parts, yet capable of moving the human spirit to its very core. Beneath the polished floors and grand halls, an entire hidden city of stone lay in wait. This ninth mechanism, the Subterranean network, formed the temple's secret circulatory system, a logistical machine dedicated to function and secrecy. These tunnels were far more than simple storage cellars. They were carefully engineered passageways that allowed for the unseen movement of people, sacred objects, and vital resources, ensuring the public rituals above proceeded with an air of seamless, divine magic. At the Temple of Hathor in Dendera, Egypt, a labyrinth of underground corridors connects crypts, chapels, and outer buildings. Priests and initiates could move between these spaces without ever crossing the public courtyard, preserving the mystery of their preparations and the sanctity of their journey. This was practical stagecraft on a monumental scale. The logistics of running a major temple complex were immense. Supplies for offerings, food for the large resident staff, and materials for daily maintenance all had to be moved efficiently. Using these underground routes, the necessary work of sustaining the temple could happen out of sight, allowing the public spaces to remain pristine and focused solely on spiritual matters. But the purpose of these tunnels often ran deeper than mere convenience. In certain South American sites, these subterranean paths are believed to possess unique acoustic properties or to have been deliberately aligned with specific geological features, like underground water veins or energy-emitting rock formations. This suggests the tunnels themselves were active components of the temple's greater machine, perhaps designed to channel telluric energies or to create specific sound frequencies as one walked through them, enhancing the spiritual transition for those passing below. This hidden network also served as a vault for the most precious commodity of all, knowledge. Sacred texts, ceremonial objects, and the inner teachings of the priesthood could be stored and transported in these secure, climate-controlled passages, protected from the elements and far from public view. The very existence of this underworld reinforced a central theme in many ancient traditions, the concept of an inner and outer mystery. The public saw the magnificent, finished performance in the open courts, while the intricate, practical work that made it possible unfolded in the quiet darkness below. This separation was not about deception, but about preserving the power and potency of the sacred experience. It transformed the temple from a single building into a multi-layered organism, with a public face and a private, beating heart of stone forever hidden in plain sight. The final hidden mechanism is perhaps the most profound, for it is woven into the very fabric of the temple's design. These structures were built to a secret code, a language of sacred geometry that used universal constants like the golden ratio and pi as their foundational blueprint. This was far more than an artistic preference for pleasing shapes. It was a functional technology embedding mathematical truth into the walls themselves. The result was a space of incredible structural stability and aesthetic harmony, where every pillar and corridor resonated with a hidden, proportional order. Some researchers now propose that this precise geometry does more than please the eye. It can directly influence the mind. The consistent angles and ratios may produce a calming effect on brainwave patterns, gently guiding the brain toward states of quiet focus or deep meditation. Walking through such a space was not a passive act. The worshipper was immersed in an environment meticulously calculated to induce a sense of reverence and connection. The individual, the microcosm, was subtly synchronized with the mathematical perfection of the universe, the macrocosm. This was the ultimate purpose of the temple machine, to use silent, unmoving form to orchestrate an internal transformation within the human spirit. Even the altars themselves were machines of precise, sacred function. Across the ancient world, from the stone platforms of Mayan cities to the great temples of the Mediterranean, we find flat sacrificial tables etched with an intricate web of narrow grooves and channels. To the untrained eye, they might appear as simple drains, a practical solution for washing down a surface, but their design reveals a far deeper purpose. These carved networks were hydraulic instruments, engineered to guide the flow of sacred liquids with meticulous control. Whether it was water, wine, olive oil, or the vital essence of a ceremonial offering, the liquid was not merely allowed to spill away randomly. The shallow channels directed it along predetermined paths, often converging into a central spout or flowing into specific, hidden collection vessels. This transformed a ritual act into a measured, repeatable process. The altar became a calibrated device, ensuring that every offering was conducted with the same geometric precision, that the same quantity of life-giving substance was presented to the divine in an unerring, physical prayer. The flow itself was the manifestation of intent, a liquid prayer given form and direction by stone. This sacred hydraulics reveals a world where even the most profound spiritual exchanges followed a law of balance and measure. The careful channeling of these substances, so central to life and ceremony, was an act of engineering reverence, proving that for the ancients, the boundary between a tool for worship and the object of worship was beautifully and intentionally blurred. These sacred repositories of knowledge and wealth needed more than just walls to protect their treasures. The 12th hidden mechanism reveals the temple as a fortress, its defenses engineered directly into the stone with a cunning that rivals its spiritual functions. Beyond the grand entrances and ceremonial halls lay a secret world of security contraptions, designed to guard against theft and desecration. Imagine a massive stone door, seemingly immovable, yet perfectly balanced on a central pivot. An intruder might push with all their might against one side, achieving nothing, while a priest who knew the secret could apply gentle pressure to a specific point, causing the entire slab to swing open with ease. This was not mere architecture, it was a mechanical puzzle designed to distinguish the initiated from the outsider. Some temples incorporated pivoting walls, entire sections of masonry that could rotate on a concealed central axis. A seemingly solid wall could silently turn, revealing a hidden chamber for safeguarding sacred texts or ceremonial objects before closing again, leaving no trace of its existence. The famous treasury at Petra, with its ornate facade carved from the cliff face, is believed to have contained such features. Its lower levels may have held counterbalanced barriers or even primitive pressure plates in the floor. Stepping on the wrong stone could trigger a cascade of noise, perhaps dislodging stones to create a loud alarm, or even releasing a mechanism that blocked an escape route. These were not the lethal contraptions of fiction, but brilliant, non-lethal deterrents focused on containment, alarm, and psychological intimidation. Their purpose was to confuse, delay, and expose anyone who dared to trespass. This integration of security into the sacred space shows a profound understanding of human nature. It acknowledges that these centers of spiritual power were also pillars of temporal wealth and knowledge, requiring a vigilant, hidden guardian. The temple's machines were not only for elevating the spirit, but for protecting the very essence of the civilization that built it, ensuring its legacy would endure in a world full of threats. The air within the temple was not left to chance. A 13th hidden mechanism focused on the very atmosphere itself, transforming incense and aromatic vapors from a simple ritual into a precisely engineered spectacle. Elaborate bronze braziers, far more complex than simple bowls, were crafted with intricate internal channels. These channels would draw air and heat in a specific way, controlling the burn of precious resins and herbs to release their fragrant smoke at a steady, predictable rate. In other temples, the process began in hidden underground chambers. Priests would place specific blends of botanicals on heated stones, and the resulting vapor would be channeled upwards through a network of narrow vents carved directly into the floor of the main hall. At the pivotal moment of a ceremony, a wave of fragrant smoke would suddenly rise from the ground around the altar, as if the earth itself were breathing a sacred mist into the space. This was not just a visual effect, it was a full sensory immersion. The smell of sandalwood or myrrh would fill the air, the sight of the swirling haze would obscure and then reveal the priest, and the very taste of the smoke would be on the tongue of every worshipper. This mechanized distribution served a profound symbolic purpose, making the intangible presence of the divine something that could be seen, smelled, and felt. It was a perfect fusion of chemistry and engineering, a hidden machine that used controlled airflow and thermal dynamics to orchestrate an environment of awe. The temple was not merely a place to witness a ritual, it was a place to breathe it in, a space where the boundary between the physical world and the spiritual realm dissolved into a fragrant, manufactured mist. Yet beyond the fragrant mists and hidden passages, the temple's rituals ran on a schedule as precise as the stars. While grand sundials tracked the sun's journey across the sky, the sacred work of the temple did not end at sunset. For the hours of darkness or for ceremonies held deep within windowless sanctuaries, the ancients engineered a different kind of timekeeper, one powered not by light, but by the relentless, gentle drip of water. These water clocks, known as clepsydry, were far more than simple leaking bowls. The most advanced versions were intricate hydraulic machines, designed with multiple chambers and overflow regulators to maintain a constant water pressure. This ensured the flow from one vessel to the next remained steady, hour after hour, making them astonishingly accurate even by modern standards. Imagine a priest in a lamplit chamber, not gazing at the stars, but watching the water level slowly drop along a precisely marked scale, each passing hour measured by the silent, unfailing descent. The placement of these clocks was strategic, integrated into the very heartbeat of the temple's routine. Their operation signaled the precise moments for nocturnal prayers, for specific offerings to be made under the cover of night, or for the silent changing of the sacred guard. This internal timekeeping machine created an autonomous schedule, a rhythm for the complex that was completely independent of the world outside its walls. It demonstrated a need for order that governed every aspect of temple life, from the most profound sacred rites to the mundane administrative duties that supported them. The steady drip of water was the pulse of an institution that understood time itself was a sacred resource, to be measured, honored, and woven into the very fabric of their daily devotion. The true test of an ancient machine was not its complexity, but its resilience. In the world's most volatile landscapes, where the ground itself could turn violent, these sacred structures were engineered not just to stand, but to sway. They were built with a hidden understanding that to survive an earthquake, a building must dance with the tremors, not fight them. This 15th mechanism transformed the entire temple into a sophisticated seismic dampener, a machine for survival designed to dynamically interact with the planet's raw power. In the Minoan palaces on the island of Crete, builders integrated long, horizontal timber beams directly into the stone masonry. These wooden lattices, often of cypress wood, were not merely structural. They acted as flexible ligaments within a stone skeleton. When the ground shook, the rigid stone wanted to crack, but the wood allowed for a slight, crucial give. The entire wall would shift and settle as a unified, flexible entity, absorbing the destructive energy and redistributing it harmlessly. This was a brilliant fusion of materials, using the natural tensile strength of wood to compensate for the brittle nature of stone. The principle of flexibility extended to the very joints of the structure. Many temples in seismic zones used a special, more elastic mortar in their construction. Unlike modern cement, which is rigid and prone to shattering, these ancient mixes, sometimes incorporating materials like clay or even rice husks, retained a slight pliability. This allowed the stones to shift minutely against each other during a tremor, grinding and settling, instead of transmitting destructive forces that would lead to a catastrophic collapse. The foundation itself was often part of the machine. Some temples were built upon layered foundations of sand and gravel, a primitive but effective form of base isolation. When seismic waves traveled upward, this granular layer would act as a buffer, scattering and dampening the energy before it could reach the main structure above. The temple, in essence, floated on a bed of shock-absorbing material. This was not guesswork. It was a profound, hard-won knowledge of geophysics, encoded in stone and timber. It reveals a mindset that saw the temple as a living partner to the environment, even in its most destructive moods. These structures were designed to endure not for decades, but for millennia, a silent testament to builders who understood that the greatest strength lies not in rigid resistance, but in the intelligent ability to bend and endure. These stories of singing birds and self-pouring statues are more than mere legend. They represent the 16th hidden mechanism, the pinnacle of ancient engineering artistry, where the temple's icons were brought to life through motion. In the Great Library of Alexandria, writings describe a statue of the goddess Nike that could, through a system of counterweights and hydraulics, appear to pour a ceremonial offering of wine. In ancient China, intricate accounts tell of entire mechanical processions, with figures that moved and played music, all powered by the clever channeling of water pressure or the slow unwinding of a rope wound tight. These were not simple toys. They were profound theological tools designed to elicit a very specific reaction, awe. For a worshipper to see a stone bird suddenly burst into song or a metal hand gesture as if guided by a divine will was to have their belief system physically confirmed. The technology behind these marvels was a closely guarded secret of the priesthood. They likely employed principles we now associate with early clockwork, using the steady flow of water or sand to turn gears and rotate axles. Compressed air or steam harnessed from heated water could have powered small pistons to create movement. These systems were the ultimate fusion of the spiritual and the scientific, a hidden kinetic art that made the divine seem tangibly present. The automaton was a bridge between the abstract concept of a god and the physical world of the devotee. It transformed the temple from a place of static reverence into a theater of active miracle, a space where the boundary between the crafted idol and the living deity was intentionally and brilliantly blurred. A hidden force, one that pulls at the very metal in your pocket, may have also guided the hands of ancient architects. Beyond the stones aligned with the stars, another invisible alignment was at work, one tied to the planet's own magnetic heartbeat. Certain temples were not merely oriented to true north. They appear to have been engineered to interact with the Earth's magnetic field itself. The most famous example remains the Great Pyramid of Giza, whose sides face the cardinal directions with a deviation of less than a 20th of a degree, an accuracy that seems to defy the tools of its era. While stellar methods were likely used, some researchers suggest the builders also understood the pull of lodestone, a naturally magnetic mineral. Imagine a windowless inner chamber, deep within a pyramid or a carved mountain temple. In such profound darkness, a simple lodestone floating on a piece of wood in a bowl of water would consistently point north, providing a constant, reliable reference for priests navigating the sacred labyrinth. This would transform the entire structure into a colossal, fixed compass, its alignment locked not just to the sky above, but to the iron heart of the planet below. The incorporation of these magnetic stones was likely more than just practical. In many cultures, materials that exhibited such mysterious, unseen power were considered sacred. A lodestone that could command iron was seen as possessing a living spirit, a fragment of the divine will made manifest in rock. Building these stones into the foundations or key points of a temple would have been a way to harness that power, to literally ground the sacred space in the planet's own energetic field. This hidden magnetic machine represents a dual understanding. On one hand, it was a tool of astonishing precision, enabling alignments we still struggle to explain. On the other, it was a profound symbolic act, connecting the human-made temple directly to the living, breathing magnetism of the earth, weaving the spiritual and the scientific into a single, unified fabric of stone and force. The silent surface of a temple pool holds more than just water. It conceals a hidden optical machine, engineered from stillness and light. These reflective basins, often seen as simple decorative elements, were in fact sophisticated instruments designed to manipulate perception and amplify the sacred atmosphere. When perfectly still, the water became a natural mirror, perfectly duplicating the towering stone facade and the vast sky above. This created a powerful visual metaphor, seamlessly joining the earthly temple with the celestial realm in a single, unified image. For a worshipper standing at the water's edge, the boundary between the world of humans and the domain of the gods was physically dissolved, reinforcing the temple's role as a bridge between the two. This technology of reflection extended far beyond the courtyard. Inside the dark, windowless chambers of certain temples, direct sunlight was an impossibility. Yet engineers found a way to bend light to their will. They used highly polished discs of bronze or copper, strategically placed to catch a beam of sunlight from an exterior shaft. This captured light was then reflected not just once, but in a series of calculated bounces from one polished surface to another, snaking its way through corridors and into the deepest sanctums. It was a primitive form of fiber optics, using air as the cable and mirrors as the relays. The result was a soft, ethereal glow illuminating a statue or altar that had never felt the direct touch of the sun, a feat that must have seemed nothing short of miraculous. This was not random experimentation. It was the application of a deep understanding of the laws of reflection and refraction. The angles of each mirror had to be calculated with precision to ensure the light reached its intended destination. A miscalculation by even a single degree would send the beam scattering into darkness. This hidden network of light transformed the entire temple into a cosmic projector, capable of delivering the sun's own power to the most secret and sacred of spaces, proving that the most profound illumination often comes not from a direct path, but from one that is cleverly redirected. The path to the sacred was never a simple walkway. Underfoot, the very stones were engineered to choreograph the pilgrim's journey, transforming a physical approach into a profound emotional and spiritual passage. This 19th mechanism turned the ceremonial route into a dynamic machine for the body and the mind. Subtle, almost imperceptible inclines would naturally slow the pace of a procession, forcing a deliberate, reverent advance toward the inner sanctum. The texture of the paving stones might shift underfoot from rough, uneven rock to a smooth, polished surface, a tactile signal that one was crossing a threshold into a more sacred space. This was environmental programming, using the landscape itself to guide behavior without a single spoken command. In some traditions, the path incorporated deliberate obstacles, not as barriers but as focuses for contemplation. A worshipper might need to navigate a specific pattern on the floor or pass through a narrow, constricting passage before emerging into a vast, open courtyard. This physical act of moving from confinement to expansion mirrored the intended internal journey, from a state of worldly distraction to one of spiritual openness. The auditory landscape of these pathways was equally engineered. A long, vaulted corridor might be shaped so that the sound of footsteps and chanting would amplify and echo, growing in intensity as the procession moved forward, building a palpable sense of anticipation. In other sites, specific stones were subtly loosened or set upon hollow, resonating chambers so that they would emit a distinct, low tone when stepped upon. Each footfall would then produce a note, turning the procession into a living, walking instrument creating its own ritual soundtrack. This was not random architecture. It was a carefully composed sensory experience designed to dominate the attention. The crunch of gravel, the echo in a hall, the specific note of a singing stone, all worked in concert to pull the focus away from external worries and into the present, physical moment of the ritual. The path was no longer just a means to an end. It became an active participant in the ceremony, a kinetic and auditory guide that prepared the heart and mind for the revelation awaiting at its conclusion. Every step was a calculated part of the ritual, making the journey itself as sacred as the destination. Even the simple act of casting a lot was transformed into a precise mechanical ritual. Within the quiet confines of certain temples, priests did not merely toss marked stones onto the ground. They used specially carved tables or basins, their surfaces etched with a network of shallow channels radiating from a central point. The lot, perhaps a carved pebble or a fragment of bone, would be released into this calibrated maze. The path it took as it spiraled outward, the specific channel it finally settled in, each element was pre-assigned a meaning. This was not left to random chance, but to the predetermined physics of the apparatus itself. The temple provided the machine, a tool that translated the unpredictable bounce of a falling object into a clear, repeatable answer, a divine decision made tangible through engineering. Another common device was the scrying basin, a vessel of water or sometimes obsidian, polished to a perfect, dark mirror. The individual seeking guidance would gaze into its depths, but the environment was everything. The basin was often placed in a chamber designed to eliminate all external light and sound, a sensory deprivation tank carved from stone. This controlled emptiness was the key. It allowed the mind to project its own images onto the blank canvas of the water's surface, turning internal anxieties and hopes into visions that could then be interpreted. The temple, in its profound silence and isolation, became the amplifier for the human subconscious. This highlights a profound truth about these ancient technologies. They were not always about complex gears or hidden levers. Sometimes, the most sophisticated machine was a simple, well-designed object placed within a perfectly calibrated space. It gave a tangible, structured process to the deeply intangible practice of seeking knowledge from beyond. The act of prophecy was no longer a vague mystery, but a procedure, one that could be repeated and trusted, granting comfort and certainty through the elegant application of design. The silent strength of a civilization was measured not only in its grand rituals, but in its ability to endure a harsh season. Temples served as the beating heart of this resilience, housing the 21st hidden mechanism, the Storage and Preservation Vault. These were not mere closets for surplus, but sophisticated environmental machines engineered for the long-term survival of the entire community. Deep beneath the ceremonial floors, architects designed subterranean granaries with a profound understanding of natural science. These pits were lined with specific types of clay and plaster, and their proportions were calculated to create a perfect microclimate. The thick earthen walls and the depth of the chamber itself maintained a constant, cool temperature and a low level of humidity, conditions that prevented mold and kept insect pests at bay. Within these silent, dark chambers, vital stores of grain could be preserved for years, a literal stockpile of life that secured the population against the uncertainty of drought or poor harvests. This was a machine that fought against time and decay itself. Alongside these granaries lay the treasury vaults, the central banks of the ancient world. Here, the wealth of the city-state, in the form of precious metals, rare spices, and sacred artifacts, was protected by more than just guards. The vaults were situated in the most geologically stable, defensible core of the temple complex, often shielded by multiple walls and accessible only through a single, easily monitored corridor. Their doors were secured with complex wooden and bronze locking mechanisms that required specific knowledge to operate, a physical form of encryption. This careful guardianship of resources reveals a complete societal system. The temple was the ultimate safeguard, the institution trusted to manage both the spiritual and the material needs of the people. Its hidden storage machines were a promise of continuity, ensuring that the culture's knowledge, its wealth, and its very ability to feed itself would persist through any challenge. The true power of the temple, therefore, lay as much in its silent, stocked vaults as in its echoing prayers, a dual role that made it the indispensable anchor of the ancient world. The very shape of the ground could orchestrate human emotion. Stepped terraces and concentric stone rings were not passive stages for rituals. They were active instruments designed to conduct the energy of the crowd itself. When thousands of voices rose in chant from the tiers of a Mesopotamian ziggurat, the sound did not simply dissipate into the air. The layered, ascending walls captured and focused the collective voice, reflecting it inward to create a dome of audible power that enveloped everyone present. This was not an accident of design. It was social engineering in its most literal form. The architecture guided people into formations that naturally promoted synchronized movement and unified vocalization. A circular henge compelled a procession to move in a continuous, flowing pattern, while a grand staircase directed the gaze of the multitude toward a single, focal point. In this carefully crafted environment, the individual worshipper became a vital component in a larger, living machine. The sensation of your own voice blending indistinguishably into a thunderous, collective sound, of feeling the vibration of 1,000 footsteps through the stone beneath you, produced a profound psychological shift. It fostered a powerful sense of belonging, a dissolution of the self into the community. This engineered unity was the mechanism's ultimate purpose. By harnessing this communal resonance, the temple could generate a shared state of transcendence, a palpable feeling of connection that reinforced social bonds and cemented cultural identity. The sacred space did not just host the ritual, it actively performed it, using the most powerful and unpredictable element of all, the human spirit, as its primary energy source. Those carved walls were never meant to be mere decoration. They are a hidden machine of memory, a sophisticated system of data storage engineered directly into the fabric of the temple itself. This 23rd mechanism, the inscription and knowledge encoding system, transforms every pillar and chamber into a page of a vast, indestructible library. The method of carving was a technology in its own right. Artisans did not simply chisel random marks. They employed precise techniques to create glyphs of a consistent depth and angle, ensuring the inscriptions would catch the light in a specific way, making them readable for centuries. The order of the symbols, whether Egyptian hieroglyphs or Mesopotamian cuneiform, followed a strict, repeatable grammar. This was not just a language, it was a formal code. The placement of a text was equally deliberate. A narrative of a pharaoh's military campaign might be carved along the processional route, forcing a reader to physically walk the path of conquest. Astronomical charts and star tables were often reserved for the ceilings of the most sacred inner chambers, directly linking the celestial information to the realm of the gods. This spatial organization was a crucial part of the machine. It ensured that knowledge was not only stored, but also encountered in a specific sequence and context, reinforcing its meaning and importance. Some researchers studying these ancient scripts have noticed something deeper at work. Beyond the literal translations, they see patterns of repetition, sequences of symbols that may correspond to mathematical constants or the orbital cycles of planets. A hymn to a god, when its hieroglyphs are assigned numerical values, might also encode the formula for calculating the volume of a granary. A mythic story could secretly chart the predictable return of a comet. The temple, in this light, becomes a multi-layered data storage device. On the surface, it tells a story for the general populace, but for the initiated priest or scribe who knew the key, those same walls could reveal precise scientific, architectural, or agricultural knowledge, preserved in stone against the ravages of time and the fall of empires. To read these walls in their intended sequence is to operate a machine designed to transmit the entire intellectual legacy of a civilization, a permanent record whispering its secrets to those who know how to listen. The silent language of stone could command the human mind as powerfully as any spoken prayer. This 24th mechanism, psychological architecture, reveals the temple as a masterfully engineered environment for shaping perception and emotion. Ancient builders were not just constructing spaces, they were programming experiences, using the principles of forced perspective and deliberate design to guide the inner journey of every person who entered. A towering facade might be built with its upper section slightly smaller than the base, a subtle trick that made the building appear even more colossal and overwhelming as you approached its feet. This was not a flaw in craftsmanship, it was a calculated act of visual engineering, designed to instill an immediate sense of awe and personal insignificance before the divine. The path inward continued this manipulation. A long entrance corridor would often gradually narrow, its ceiling lowering as you walked further in. With every step, the outside world was physically squeezed away, and your own body was made to feel smaller, funneling your focus toward the sacred space ahead. This carefully orchestrated compression made the final release into the main hall or inner sanctum feel like a sudden, breathtaking expansion, a physical metaphor for spiritual enlightenment emerging from a state of humility. This psychological engineering extended to the very inhabitants of the temple. Statues of gods and guardians were positioned with meticulous precision. Their eyes were often carved in such a way and placed at such a height and angle that they appeared to follow you no matter where you stood in the chamber. You were never alone, and you were always being observed by a higher power. This created a powerful, constant sense of accountability and presence, reinforcing the idea that your actions within these walls were witnessed. Color itself was a tool in this silent machine. Specific pigments derived from rare minerals and precious stones were not chosen at random. The deep, calming lapis lazuli blue that adorned a ceiling might symbolize the heavens and evoke a feeling of peace. A vibrant, fiery red ochre used in a chamber of initiation could stimulate energy and represent the trials of transformation. Every hue was selected for its psychological impact, working in concert with the architecture to orchestrate a specific emotional sequence. The ultimate goal of this hidden machine was a guided transformation. The architects were mapping a spiritual journey onto a physical one. The path from the overwhelming exterior, through the humbling, constricting passageway, and into the expansive, illuminated presence of the divine was a deliberate psychological script. It was designed to lead you from a state of worldly distraction and ego, through a phase of introspection and reverence, and finally to a feeling of connection and transcendence. The temple did not just house rituals, it performed them on the human psyche, using the silent, unmoving power of form, space, and light to sculpt the inner world of the worshipper, proving that the most profound machinery was often the one you never saw, only felt. Each individual mechanism was a marvel of engineering, yet their true power emerged only when they worked together. The ultimate hidden machine was not one single system, but the seamless integration of them all. Picture a single temple as a masterfully composed symphony where the steady rhythm of flowing water, the resonant frequency of a chant, and the silent sweep of a sunbeam were all precisely timed movements. The hydraulic channels that purified water might also feed a reservoir that powered a water clock. This clock, in turn, would mark the exact moment for a ceremony to begin, at which point priests would enter an acoustically tuned chamber. Their voices, amplified and transformed by the stone, would rise just as a beam of sunlight, channeled through a narrow shaft, illuminated the central altar. This was not a series of happy coincidences. It was a meticulously choreographed performance where each system triggered and enhanced the next. The temple operated as a single, holistic organism. Its spiritual function was not merely supported by its physical mechanisms, it was expressed through them. To separate the ritual from the engineering is to misunderstand the ancient mind completely. For these builders, a water channel was not just a pipe, it was a vein of ceremonial purity. An echoing chamber was not an acoustic anomaly, it was the very voice of the divine. This interconnectedness reveals a world where technology was not a separate, profane tool, but the tangible, physical language of the sacred. The temple itself was a prayer made manifest in stone, water, and light, a grand machine whose ultimate purpose was to weave humanity into the intricate, living fabric of the cosmos. The silent stones are finally beginning to speak, their secrets teased out not by crowbars but by beams of light and sound. Our modern tools are acting as a digital key, unlocking the temple machines without ever touching a single ancient block. Ground-penetrating radar sends pulses into the earth, painting a ghostly image of subterranean channels and hidden chambers that have lain invisible for millennia. Meanwhile, three-dimensional laser scanners capture every minute contour of a wall or altar with millimeter precision, revealing where patterns and alignments that are invisible to the naked eye. This data allows researchers to build perfect virtual models of these structures. They can then run simulations, testing how water would have flowed through a specific network of channels, or how a specific chant would have resonated in a chamber whose acoustics can now be measured to a degree never before possible. This is a new kind of archaeology, one built on collaboration. Physicists analyze the properties of the stone, engineers calculate load distributions and hydraulic flow, and acousticians map the resonant frequencies of carved spaces. Together, they are reverse engineering the genius of the ancients, not to prove they had help from lost civilizations, but to understand the profound and sophisticated science they developed on their own terms. This research does more than just satisfy historical curiosity. It fundamentally challenges our linear narrative of technological progress. we are forced to confront the fact that advanced knowledge is not a guaranteed, ever upward climb. It can be lost, forgotten for centuries, only to be rediscovered hidden in plain sight within the world's most visited ruins. The legacy of these temple machines is a humbling and inspiring testament to human ingenuity. It offers us more than just a glimpse into the past. It provides tangible insights for our future. The principles of passive ventilation, seismic resilience, and water management engineered into these stones are masterclasses in sustainable, energy-efficient design. They remind us that true innovation often lies not in creating more complex technology, but in understanding how to work in deeper harmony with the natural world. The machines are still there, waiting for us to finally learn how to read them. Our journey through these silent stone machines reveals a world where the sacred and the scientific were never truly separate. From the celestial clocks of Giza to the hydraulic hearts of Angkor Wat, these were not inert monuments but dynamic, functioning entities, powered by the genius of their creators and the relentless forces of nature. They stand as a permanent challenge to any simplistic idea of a primitive past, proving instead a deep and sophisticated mastery of physics, geology, and even the human mind. The stones themselves whisper of a time when a temple was a living system, an interface between humanity and the cosmos. The greatest lingering question is not necessarily how they achieved such feats, but why this profound, integrated way of seeing the world eventually faded from common knowledge. Why was this holistic understanding, where every flowing stream and beam of light was part of a greater spiritual mechanism, allowed to slip into silence? As our modern tools continue to decode these secrets, we are doing more than just uncovering lost history. We are rediscovering a different way of being, a perspective that saw no divide between an engineer's calculation and a priest's prayer. This exploration is really just the beginning. We would love to hear which of these ancient mechanisms resonated most with you. Was it the acoustic marvels that transformed sound into sensation, or the celestial alignments that turned a pyramid into a cosmic clock? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's continue this conversation about the incredible legacy hidden in plain sight.